I am Charles Zeller. I'm on the board of Progress Texas and have been for several years. I like Progress Texas because I think government involvement is essential in a rapidly changing, increasingly complex, crowded, interconnected world. I would like a more functional government to be less influenced by dysfunctional politics. Democracy requires a basic sense of solidarity in a two-party system.
Thank you, Charles. It's Monday, April 14th, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. For 30 years, starting in 1995, Republican lawmakers in Texas have been trying and failing to pass private school voucher legislation. Over those past 3 decades, numerous and continuous efforts to introduce bills that would allow public funds to be used for private school tuition. Despite those relentless campaigns, vouchers have failed and failed and failed again in Texas. But this Wednesday, those same Republicans believe they will push their deeply unpopular and blatantly regressive private school voucher scam over the finish line. The House will vote on Wednesday. In recent years, as you know, the push for school vouchers has intensified, with Governor Greg Abbott, paid handsomely by Pennsylvania billionaire and private school voucher advocate Jeff Yass, $10 million in Abbott campaign contributions over the last 2 years, spurring an active campaign on the part of our governor against members of his own party who, despite loyalty to the governor and the GOP pretty much on every single other issue, opposed taxpayer-funded private school vouchers because they would hurt their constituents who live in the small-town districts they represent in Austin. The Texas Freedom Network says they're expecting a House floor vote on the voucher scam this Wednesday, April the 16th. If your state rep is a Republican, now is the time to hammer those phone lines and send those emails in opposition. 30 years of resistance and defense of our public schools culminates in this vote on Wednesday. Call your state rep and tell them you say no to vouchers. The economic fallout under Donald Trump's on-again, off-again tariff drama is particularly dangerous for Texas, and it's already starting. James Osborne at the Houston Chronicle says international trade is at the heart of just about everything our business sector does, makes, or buys. Lubbock cotton ends up in clothing manufactured in Bangladesh and Vietnam. Cars assembled in San Antonio and DFW contain parts from both Mexico and Canada. On, and made possible by the free trade agreement signed over the last few decades. This is the Texas miracle, and it depends very directly on a peaceful and smooth international trading environment, which is now upset by Trump's tariff roller coaster and that currently standing 145% levy against China. Even before things escalated over the last week or so with China, experts were projecting a $47 billion hit to the Texas economy. That estimation is now almost certainly much, much higher. The Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas has called Texas, quote, the #1 trading state in the nation with more than $850 billion in total U.S. trade, unquote, and that stands to evaporate under Donald Trump, who won Texas by almost 14 points, securing over 6.3 million votes, the largest margin since 2012 and the most votes ever for an individual candidate in our state's history. If Trump's tariffs tank Texas, you can very directly thank millions of Texas Republican voters. Many of us, myself included, have certainly inwardly been thinking Trump's the president, but he's just one guy. How can just one guy single-handedly do so much damage? And who's going to stop him? Well, with the newly launched blood battle between Senator John Cornyn and announced primary challenger Ken Paxton, with Senator Ted Cruz off to the side looking at his shoes, don't look to our representatives in the U.S. Senate to challenge Trump on anything. They're all jockeying for his blessing at the moment. Politico writes that Cornyn's cronies in that body, with the notable exception of Ted Cruz, have been lobbying Trump to back Cornyn, representing the old school business guard, against Paxton, who frankly represents the grassroots MAGA mob that really provides Trump's power, as we were talking about. So not only does an extremely expensive and nasty fight look to lie ahead for the national GOP in Texas, but they worry that similar MAGA challengers in other states might be similarly emboldened, all of which could be good news for Democrats if Trump starts to back wacky candidates who do well with his low information base in the primaries but then struggle in the general election. The key here for Democrats will be strong candidates to send into this fight. With all of that, over in the U.S. House, the title of Trump's favorite Democrat is of dubious glamour, to be sure, but Jeremy Wallace at the Houston Chronicle writes that the Dems are depending heavily on the re-election of Laredo's Henry Cuellar, despite the congressman's famously undependable voting record. Just last week, Cuellar voted with the Republicans to pass the SAVE Act, which places unnecessary and discriminatory restrictions on voter registration. Still, Democrats looking to retake the House in 2026 by flipping just 3 Republican-held seats need Cuellar to stay where he is, as one of 14 congressional Dems representing Trump country and heavily targeted by the GOP, despite his tendency to cave to them, as a pickup opportunity for the Republicans, with multiple GOP challengers lining up as we speak. National Democrats may have the same issue that the Republicans have in the Cornyn-Paxton brawl, an expensive fight to keep an unreliable lawmaker in place in a situation where that money is badly needed elsewhere. Back to the Texas ledge and that abortion legislation that's created divisions among advocates for reproductive rights and maternal care safety. On the latter, Eleanor Klibanoff at the Texas Tribune writes that even should that legislation pass, it won't change anything for pregnancies in which the fetus has no chance to survive. An abortion procedure to mercifully end a pregnancy with a severe and irreversible abnormality was common sense and standard procedure in Texas until 2021, when Texas Republicans, generally white Christian men, banned all abortions except those to save the life of the pregnant patient, even those that would certainly end in a painful death for the newborn baby and leave the mother in the wake of an enormous trauma at best and permanent reproductive impairment as a distinct possibility. A great many Texas lawmakers whom we respect have signed on to this legislation, but its shortcomings have become as evident as its potential to help. The Senate's version, SB 31, passed in that body late last week. Our state will force women to carry unwanted pregnancies, even hopeless ones, but once that child is born, it's pretty much on its own in Texas. In the context of the ongoing and accelerating measles outbreak, the vast majority of cases afflicting kids, Alyssa Fields at the Dallas Observer finds that Texas is near the bottom of the barrel when it comes to health care for children. The only state that does worse than us is Mississippi. This is from a Wallet Hub study that looked at insurance rates, vaccination rates, obesity rates, healthcare costs, oral health, and other factors. We're nearly dead last for kids' general health and access to healthcare, despite having the largest pediatric hospital in the entire country, Texas Children's Hospital in Houston. With all of the above considered, including the bizarre movement against vaccines, found largely among Donald Trump's MAGA masses and spurred on by his pal RFK Jr. in more ways than one, it almost seems like Donald Trump is doing all he can to destroy our state. San Antonio friends, Progress Texas is proud to welcome San Antonio Mayor Ron Nirenberg as our guest for a live podcast taping at our Party for Progress coming up on Tuesday, May the 6th, and you're invited. We look forward to a long overdue visit to Alamo City. Again, mark that date, Tuesday, May 6th, live pod taping with Mayor Ron Nirenberg, and good fun with you in San Antonio. See the show notes and get your tickets right now. Big thanks to Austin Kaplan and the Kaplan Law Firm, Julianne Reeves, Tracy Miller, Will Judy, and more for their generous support of our San Antonio Party for Progress. Our mission at Progress Texas is to counter the conservative disinformation machine, but they far outmatch us in funding. Oil and tech billionaires and religious right-wing activist groups spend a lot of money keeping their audiences in the dark. And if you've come to appreciate the light we shine on important political news in Texas on a daily, ongoing basis, please know that our regular everyday listeners form a key component of our funding. If that's you, we could use your support as a monthly contributor, and no amount is too small. Go to progresstexas.org/donate. Thanks to Mary Ann Reisner, Camille Tucker, and Peter Sherrod, all of whom are on the team. We appreciate all of y'all. While you're at the website, make sure and hit our web store for the merch to match your progressive values. Y'all means all Revolution, and our most popular Humans Against Ted Cruz t-shirts are all union printed right here in Texas and all waiting for you right now at progresstexas.org. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Monday, April 14th, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day and a great week. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.